our job is to be nimble, to not be constrained by HR, to not be constrained by our own biases, but to really go in there and meet people where they are and grow kick-ass organizations.
Guaranteed in today's episode, Bob and I are going to give you all the tools for you to go help somebody in your organization land in a role that is more well suited for them.
I promoted someone in my organization to my role, and I demoted myself. That actually felt fantastic to me from a variety of perspectives.
What I want is I want you to be a part of this team and be a happy and effective member. We'll find a place where you're excited and fired up, because I know when I have an excited Bob, a fired up Bob in a role where he's just ready to rock and roll, just watch out, right? The world's going to change.
You made it sound daffodilian, my friend.
What? I believe that's the first time I've ever heard that word in my 49 years on this earth.
Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh Show.
The previous episodes we've had have been all around roles, promotion. We talked about pips. We talked about various things. Today's topic stays in that realm, but it's labeled as demotion. And I actually want to challenge that label right out of the gate, because I think using the word demotion puts the wrong connotation in it. What I view it is I view it as we are refocusing where you put your effort and energy and focus, because there's times where you try stuff and it doesn't work. So at that point, what do? You could just roll up the white flag and say, oh, we tried, sorry, we're done. Or you can do the thing that I believe you should do, is let's try something different. And that is, it's odd because it feels harder than so many of the other things we've talked about. And I don't know why. It certainly has a whole connotation with it. So hopefully in today's episode, actually scrap that. Not hopefully. Guaranteed in today's episode, Bob and I are going to give you all the tools for you to go help somebody in your organization land in a role that is more well suited for them. Right. And it's going to be your job to make it happen. So we are off and running on reshaping focus for people. Bob, let's get the party started.
Well, I disagree with you about reshaping it. I think, I mean, I agree and disagree, right? I do like the reshape your role. It sounds soft and squishy and nice. Like if you go home and talk to the kids, what happened today, Daddy? Oh, I reshaped my role. So it sounds palatable. But let's call it what it is, right? I was demoted. Because in org charts, there's an org chart change. I was up and now I'm down. And I like your reframe. I think there's a mental, like, how do we want to look at it? That way is healthy. But how's HR going to look at it? Are they going to say, here's a lollipop for your reframe? No, HR is going to call it what it is. HR is probably going to say, hey, now you're outside of your salary bands, right? So I'm picking on HR folks. How's the CEO going to look at it? So I think there's a yin and a yang. That's all I'm saying, right? There's how should we look at it? Yes, but it's not. Not everyone's going to look at it as this like rosy event. So be ready for that. The thing that go ahead, Josh.
I'm not saying it's rosy. I am not saying it's rosy. What I'm saying is that you haven't.
Yeah, you made it sound daffodilian, my friend.
What? I believe that's the first time I've ever heard that word in my 49 years on this earth.
You're a daffodilian.
That is a new one. Wow. Okay. Speaking of refocus, I got to refocus after you pulled that one out. It's so I view, as a leader of a group of people, you have the opportunity to set out how our hierarchy works. And it doesn't have to be a hierarchy. It all it is we are being asked to focus on different things. In society, it is often perceived as this means you're higher than the other one, but it doesn't make me a different or a better human. Now, this is Josh. This is that ideal world you like to paint,
Right.
and yeah, that doesn't fly where I'm at. You know what? It doesn't if you don't even try it. I've tried it and I've made it work like that, and it's effective. Is it rare? Yes, but it can be framed and set up as that if you start there from the scratch. So you can do that. Is it common? Will it be easy for you to put in place in your current place of work? No, but that doesn't I don't believe that means you shouldn't even try it.
No, no,
So,
I agree with
yeah,
you.
I know. I just don't want listeners to just again roll up the white flag. Oftentimes I get challenged with, "Hey, you're painting this like picturesque version of the world where like it only works if you pull all the strings." Well, you know what? Yes, it's easier for it to work that way, but you can make progress. You can do little things to get there. So, okay, back to that. Yes,
So real
uh,
quickly,
many parts of the organization are going to view it like that.
that's all I'm saying. It's the
Yeah.
reframe, and we should. Remember we talked about PIP? Like, from a PIP point of view, we wanna look at it positively as a leader,
Mhm.
right? We wanna convey it positively. We want, and not just with our lips, in our heads, and we were pretty strong about that. At the same time, organizationally is not gonna look at it. So there's a duality. That's all I was identifying. There's going to be
Right.
a
Yeah.
cultural
That's
or an
fair.
organizational duality. As leaders, we wanna be leaning into what Josh is saying, for what we talked
Yeah.
about in PIPs, etcetera. I wonder, I want to start with micro demotion. This is a weird idea I had as I was thinking. Uh,
Okay.
and so if I use the term delegation, Josh, to you, and say I as a leader delegate, I wonder if it's an equivalent mind frame, where I do, micro demotions of myself, where delegation is I step back, and so I'm demoting me and promoting someone. So I'm looking at it more transactionally, as a mindset for leaders, like growing their organization, and then before we get into, like, more coarsely grained demotions. What do you think? What's your reaction to that?
I just don't view it like that. I understand the angle that you're bringing to the table, but I again everything when I'm building an organization, what I try and find is what's the most effective thing for this person to focus on? What can I give them that allows them to excel with the skills and experience that they have? And my job is to shape an organization and give as much of that away as possible. Get as much execution off of my plate as possible so that I can empower the team to become whoever they are. Again, not normal, but that's how I roll, and that's what's worked for me. So I don't view it as a demotion, the fact that I'm like doing less or I'm not doing something. And I encourage others to
Do you
think like that.
trigger on the word demotion? Does that, right? I just like triggering on the word pip. Um,
I get it seems like I am. Like I don't feel
yeah.
like I do. I've worked very hard within my career to create an organization where it's not viewed as a career ladder. It's more of you find your pathway. And I've worked very hard to enable and empower members of my team to not feel as if, oh, if I don't want to become a manager or an architect or something like that, then I'm a failure. No, you're not a failure. You found your sweet spot and you want to live there. Let's maximize that. So that was something that I had to wrestle with because that's how I view the world for me. So for me, that's how I viewed things. And as my organizations grew, I was ineffective as a leader because I was painting the picture as that. So I stepped in a few things and created some challenges for myself and for my team. So I've been triggered as my organizations grew and I realized that I was like stunting the growth of people and not celebrating the value that they brought with the focus that they desired to maintain, not that they didn't want to grow. But there's still more I want to talk
But is
about
it, real quickly though,
the Peter
is
principle, yeah.
Is that so? What I'm hearing is you're an optimist personally and non-structured personally, and as a leader, you bring that. Like you're not a hierarchical guy. But the flip is, and that's fine for you to believe that, and it's fine for you to show up that way. But you're also living in a hierarchical world. Like I've created job ladders because people
Mhm,
wanted job ladders. They
mhm.
needed them. And I think less of a job ladder. But if I project that onto everyone that reports that's in my organization, there's going to be a lot of people that are like, "Well, that's great, Bob, but I want a ladder. I
Yeah,
want to hire right. I'll lose great people. I've lost great people because I was too too unhierarchical. So I think we have to communicate both, and we have to navigate how do we feel and then what does the organization need? And that's why I'm bringing up, sort of demotion, right, as a term that we need to be able to look at and say, yep, okay, it's a term. It's a hierarchical
yeah,
term. Someone's going to move from this job position to this job position, or this job position over to this job position, right? They're going to have a different title. They're going to have a different job code. We need to be able to navigate that. So there's sort of the philosophical way we show and the personal way, but then there's also meeting the organization where they are. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, am I capturing
Yeah,
your
yes, if I roll back the clock a dozen years or so to the dude, and I had this incredibly blank slate. Everybody was a engineer,
yep,
and, like, that was cool for a while, but then folks, again, where that path is important to them, started to say, like, "Hey, how do I communicate
yep,
this to the rest of the world, like, when I wanna, like, leave or go get a different job?" And so I had to wrestle with that, and we ended up building uh, titles such as software engineer 1, 2, and 3,
exactly.
and architect and all of those things. But what I worked very hard to do because of lessons learned was that there are going to be people in the organization that strive to climb that ladder. And there are people that are going to find their home and be happy there. And I needed to honor and celebrate each person
Yes,
the same because every role was equally important.
yep.
Yes, it might come with additional responsibility, different pay, but still the importance was the same. So again, because of how I attacked the career path that I had, and I very aggressively climbed that ladder, that's how I started building teams. So I had to reflexively fix that and change the wording that I had.
Well, even if you do
So yeah,
demote someone, I mean that wording helps, and it helps with the
yeah,
communication. It's like, no,
yeah,
I'm not devaluing you. I am
right,
changing your focus. Right.
right,
Yeah. And that's what I mean when I
yeah,
say demotion. Metacasters in this episode, there's this case where someone gets increasing, in my mind, increasing responsibility. And for some reason, they can no longer do it or accept it, or does it make them happy? And
hmm
we need to figure it out. I mean, in the preparation, Josh, you and I talked about I've demoted myself probably 3 times in my career, where I took
hmm
away leadership responsibilities. In one case, I gave up all of my leadership responsibilities, and I went to coaching. It was part of developing the organization. I promoted someone, so I promoted someone in my organization to my role, and I demoted myself. That actually felt fantastic to me from a variety of perspectives. So there was nothing negative. I demoted myself, but I'm not assigning a negative connotation. I was happy doing
yeah,
coaching. I was burning out as a leader. I needed to develop a new leader in my organization from a succession planning perspective, and it started challenging someone. And in many ways, they were doing leadership differently than me and better than me. So it was just a cool dynamic. I'm rambling. React to anything I've said or take us in a different direction.
Um, so I want to challenge the negative connotation that is assigned with the Peter principle. That is something that people talk about. We even talked about it
In the
in the past,
prep.
like, oh, it's a thing, and yeah, yeah. But uh, I I want to encourage you and your team to be willing to try and stretch. But to create a place where people are willing to try new roles and do different things, you have to build that safety net. So you have to show that there is equal value across all roles. And if we try something and we keep trying and you land on that role that, ooh, boy, that's a little bit more than I wanted and I'm uncomfortable and I want to go back. This doesn't make me happy. I'm not effective. I just don't feel like I'm doing a good job. Before you can allow people to make those strides and try those things, you have to ensure that you have the safety to where you can, the word I obviously trigger on, you can demote them back to a role and it's safe and it's smooth and it's there. So that's a thing that to me, when I hear the Peter principle and folks joke about it, I kind of look at it like, well, hey, at least they tried. But now what are you going to do? And I think the problem is that not enough organizations are willing or capable to do the thing that we're talking about, which is manage the situation that comes up when you've done that. And like, okay, cool, we tried a thing, let's make an adjustment and let's go from there. Too many people are uncomfortable with these discussions, which hopefully this episode can fix, and they don't address the issue and get people into whatever role is appropriate for them. So that's my challenge on the Peter principle.
Yeah, but not everyone is. I mean, you sound naive, Josh, or maybe like a Don Quixote-ish, where you, I, 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 I embrace what you're saying, but every company in the world is not filled with Josh Andersons,
I know that.
right?
Yeah.
There are people out there. So the Peter principle is a thing. I've seen
Yeah.
organizations, right? And if you have a microcosm in an organization, there's going to be other folks that aren't operating your way, and you're going to be moving people into your organization and out. So I think we have a responsibility as leaders to run the balancing act of this is our culture and this is our macro culture, and how do we do that? I've seen leaders that I thought I respected and then I didn't, who took Josh, and it's like, you know what, I'm pissed off at Josh, and I just don't like dealing with him, so I'm going to promote him and move him to another silo, right?
Yeah.
And or Josh sucks, and but I don't want to have a radically candid conversation with Josh. He's underperforming, right? And so what I'm going to do is, and Josh is a terrible developer, right? So I have a choice. Do I challenge that, or do I promote him to development manager? And actually, then what? I'm going to change. I'm ignoring the problem with Josh, and I'm also negatively influence any good developers that are reporting to him. But it gets it out of that's I've seen that a lot in
Yeah.
organizations. So all I'm saying is it's a thing. It's a thing that's out there, and the folks in your organization, which is being handled congruently by you, are also going to be looking out into the organization and comparing themselves, whether you like it or not. I'm sure you've compared yourself to other people. Forget org charts,
Yeah.
right? Their
Yeah.
behavior, how they're operating, and I don't know. So I guess I'm
I I
talking out of both sides. I think we have to talk out of both sides of our mouth.
I I I understand how you view the angle I'm coming at this with, but I view it very similar to how we approach the land of pips, where your organization is going to force you to work into some sort of pattern that you have to operate in, where every year you have to publish an annual review on a piece of paper and answer these 7 questions
Got
or
it.
whatever. But that doesn't mean that's how you have to operate under the covers. So yes, it very likely is a mess outside of your organization within the company that you work. But you, as leaders listening to this, you have the opportunity
I
and the
got you.
ability to choose how you're going to operate within your organization. Yes, there's a messy, gross, disgusting protocol you have to deal with. Cool.
Okay,
But
I
on
like
you
that.
as a leader,
Okay,
yeah, that, that is your job to do the translation and to be the shield for your people of okay, cool, yes, there's this thing that I have to do, but that's on me as your leader. I'll take care of translating the thing that we do to that piece of paper or that spreadsheet or whatever. I gotcha. Is that easy? No, it's often terribly difficult and terribly frustrating. But if you don't do that, then you become like all those other parts of the organization that you're frustrated by, or they cause you to scratch your head or things like that. So yes, naive, whatever label you want to give me, that's fine. What I've recognized is I've been able to operate within my four walls of my organization, say, hey, we are going to be a little bit different. We don't have to be burdened by the way the corporate structure is forcing us to do that. I, as the leader, have to work within that protocol, but we're going to do as good as we can within this group that we've built. Is it going to be perfect? No, but we're going to do our darndest to be
I'm
as as honoring and caring as possible. Ooh, did I stump Bob? Did I
no,
just
no,
find a way to cause Bob to?
I'm trying to think of an alternative metaphor to make my point.
Okay.
Um, you're a teacher in a school and you
Hmm.
culturally run your school the way congruently. But you realize that your students at some point are going to go out into the real world.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you have a responsibility, I think, to do two things. You have a responsibility to be true to yourself and to create the environment and culture that you're talking about, whether it's PIPs or whether it's demotions or whatever you want to call it. Uh, but I also think we have a responsibility. If someone ever leaves your group, they're going to land in not Joshville,
Yeah.
right? And we have a responsibility. And that's really what I'm arguing. It's not changing Joshville, it's our fiduciary responsibility to help people survive. For example, realize that the Peter principle. So there may be no Peter principle in Joshville. There
Hmm.
shouldn't be. Got it. There is Peter principle outside of Joshville. So somehow we have to
Right.
prepare those folks so they're not shocked and awed uh, in how to deal with that. Right. I don't know what that looks like, but we at least need to allude to it, maybe mentor them or something. Uh,
Yeah.
because it's there. It's there. That's what I'm saying. There's not if we have an entire company of Joshes, then don't do that. But that's not my experience.
Well, you still need to. Like yes, there's a responsibility. Just like I learned that I had a responsibility of I needed to enable my engineers to communicate their level of expertise to the rest of the world via LinkedIn or
Yes.
something like that. That was something that came up, and people like, how do I tell people what I do if I'm
Ex-
just like an engineer? Like, what is that? So that was one of those things where I ran smack into that. I'm like, oh crap, how do I do this? And so what I had to do again, I I had to enable the translation layer to say, okay, cool, this is how we're going to work within these four walls. This is how we roll. But I also recognize that we live in this world that maybe doesn't line up with
Yep.
everything we're trying to do here.
Yep.
Cool. I, as a leader, need to honor and respect that for each person within our organization
Right.
and enable them to be translated out and ready to go when that happens, because I do want people to like move on and try new things. And I accept that every person that comes in the organization isn't going to be there for forever. And I'm okay with that. What I've found is that it's about 70-30. Actually, 70% of the time, I have to put in real effort kind of unwinding people and saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, it really is different here." So, I understand that you come in with this baggage of how things have always done, and getting them to trust that I'm not like pulling their chain or I'm not making stuff up, that it is really the way I say it is.
Yep.
It like it takes time for people to shed that baggage and get comfortable like, "Oh, okay, I'm really not going to get screwed if I want to try
I'm
this
with
here."
you. I'm with you.
But then there are those folks that have been very lucky and haven't seen some of those bad habits that are out there. And so then, number one, they hear about it from their peers and things like that. But also, it's a responsibility that I have as well to make sure that when that time comes, they are prepped and ready. But what I'm trying to do with every organization that I build and with this podcast and with every newsletter article that I write is create more environments that are successful like the ones that I've built. I'm not saying I'm perfect, I have all the answers, but if I can encourage and empower people to do these things and have the gumption to say, okay, cool. Yes, the organization wants me to work like this. I'm going to play within the rules, but we're going to execute a little bit differently. We're going
Yep.
to challenge the norm and we're going to be a little bit different. So that's the responsibility that I feel I have because I have such passion about it, which is why I am willing to say, like, no, let's try this differently. And yes, it's going to be weird for us to talk about things differently than others, but I think there's value in trying to just like inch that along.
I'm with you, and we're simpatico. The thing,
Yeah,
the
we are.
thing I'm, it's you're rare though. That's another final point out. Like I have this Pareto view of poor leaders giving
Yeah.
feedback, doing pips properly, doing whatever we're going to call it, transitions, handling transitions. You're in like the 20%, and I'm giving that population credit. It's probably 10% of leaders
Yeah.
are doing that.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
so 90% of the damn leaders are doing some of this negative stuff that we're talking about. So I
Mhm.
just so again,
Yeah.
we there's 90% damage out there. I
And
remember one engineer, Josh, I could never convince them that it was different inside,
yeah,
right?
agreed.
They
Yeah.
were so harmed uh, that they didn't believe it, and
Yep.
it actually broke my heart a little bit. Uh,
Yeah.
and they eventually left because I think they needed to bounce around and find, I don't know, get rid of the trauma so that they
Mhm.
could find a place where they could actually trust again. And that's terrible. But I'm going to bring us back on
I
point.
like it. This is rare. I like it.
Where else do you want to go?
Something that I know you and I agree with is that money never changes. So
Yes,
often,
yes,
as a part of a promotion, money is paired with that, and there's more of it. And so, if you go through, you operate in that role, and you realize, this isn't for me. I'm actually kind of stumbling and failing, and I'm uncomfortable. I don't feel like I'm doing a good enough job for the organization. There's a fear of, oh gosh, if I give this up and return back to where I'm happy, I'm going to lose that pay bump I got. Bob and I don't operate like that.
no.
That the pay never changes.
Well, and let's be even clear. The base pay and any discretionary pay, any of the stuff. So if you get bonuses, you have bonus opportunities, healthcare. So the entire pay mix does not does not revert
Mhm.
with that at all. So yeah, I'm adamant about that. The only exception, Josh, would be, and I've done this is a personal example. One time when I demoted myself, when I went to a coaching role, I actually took hours away. So I went like
Yeah.
part time. And in
Yeah.
that case, I
That's
just
fair.
felt it was fair to, sort of appropriately reduce my salary. But if I'm a full time, I would, yeah, no.
Yeah. Something I want to put on the table is like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. You talked about demotions or reframing focus, whatever you want to call it, Josh. But I want to enable people to have that first conversation and empower the dialogue that gets there because I think that's the most important thing is that you as a leader, the best way to attack this is to put it on the table earlier than you think and phrase it as a question of how you doing in this new role? Are you comfortable? Are you happy? I want to give you the opportunity that if you don't think this is the right fit, that's fine. That's okay. We can make changes. And don't worry, your pay is not going to be changed, anything like that. But if you don't feel empowered, effective, happy, whatever terms may fit, that's fine. We'll figure that out and trying to start and create that safe discussion to enable that person to at least have the thought in their brain that maybe that's a thing. I think too often it's like a last minute type of situation. And so people are caught off guard. So that is the encouragement that I want to give to leaders that are out there is try and set that up early and make it a dialogue and allow them to work through it and think and really understand what the right move is for them. Maybe they go through, they wrestle with it, they talk it through, they come back and say, "You know what, Josh? I gotcha. But yeah, I'm struggling right now and I'm a little frustrated, but I'm going to double down. I feel like I'm going to make this work. Is it going to be easy? No, but like I'm kind of excited and passionate about this and I want to give it a try and I really want to stick with it. Great. But I want to make sure it's understood as an option sooner rather than later.
I think it's awkward though. Let me. So, in
Yeah,
your
it is.
look out your window, Josh. Do you have any flowers in your yard?
Yeah, somewhere.
So you're. So what does success look like? You as a homeowner in your yard.
Mhm,
Success in your yard work is growth. Success in as a leader is growth. Plants grow. So you're not, if you went into the Fuquay Varina Yard of Fame, you're probably not going to get a lot of kudos for like your flowers that are growing sideways or that are growing down. It's what I'm getting at is with a silly metaphor is we're in the business of growing teams. So as you were
mhm,
talking, I was like, he's right, but like the timing is hard because I'm a growth oriented leader. Every
yeah,
ounce of my being is grow, 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 grow. Right? Pip,
mhm,
recover, recover, recover. Right? Performance improvement, and and it's all upward. And there's something natural about that. Buildings grow, nature grows, right? Growth is good, but then there's this connotation of stop growing, right? And maybe switch gears, which is maybe moving laterally. So how do we switch? How do we navigate that as leaders? How do we switch gears and know when to switch gears? Uh,
yeah. So the message I'm trying to provide is you're going to know, you're going to recognize, you're going to see some struggle. And all I encourage you to do as a leader is to have that discussion, put it on the table sooner rather than later. And what I'm after creating a dialogue with that person, allowing them to have those thoughts and think it through and really be willing to double down and say, yes, you're
that
right.
that's
Josh, I'm struggling a little bit, but you know what? Dadgummit, or to use a Bobism, dadgummit. I don't think you've ever said that, but it feels like somebody like
I
you would
don't know
say
if
that.
you've ever Yosemite Sam says that, Josh.
But I feel like that's one of those things where again, to try and create the safe space and allow them to understand that, hey, if we get there, this isn't going to be the end of the world. You aren't going to go back to your team hanging your head, with a tear in your eye, so those types of things. Uh-oh,
Josh,
what have we done?
Josh,
What?
that for the Metacasters, let's do a role play. I want you to have that conversation with me about the Metacast. That's just I just want to
Yeah, I feel like I've had that.
I well then you'll be practiced. So but what is it? Let's just role play
Well,
that for just a little bit.
yeah, I mean, fair. Yeah, I mean, you and I have had a discussion about what do we do? Where I was really focused on growth with the podcast, and you were trying to
No,
pull
no,
me
no. I
back
mean
and say,
us as
"Hey, it's not
partners.
about
You're the
growth." I
boss and I'm your employee,
Yeah,
right? And I'm
yeah,
not cutting it in the podcast. I Metacasters, this is going to be shocking. You're never going to. I know you can't envision this, but we're going to just do it. So now Josh is going to be. I'm chugging along.
yeah, sure.
So have it. So let's role play that.
I don't think you're chugging. So to me, I'm having the discussion because I don't think you're chugging. I think you're sputtering, and I think you recognize it. So what I'm trying to do is have this discussion of like, hey Bob, how are you feeling about the podcast? You feeling good? You feel like you're crushing it? You have any struggles? Anything we can talk about?
Josh, I was feeling great about it until you started nitpicking my butt all the time and undermining every ounce of courage and resilience I had. No, but I was feeling good about it. But lately, I have this nagging feeling in my stomach that I may have maxed out, and I
Yeah.
don't know. What do you think?
Well, to me, the most important thing is that you understand that if that is a thing that you realize, that's okay. We can manage the situation. No matter what happens, the goal what I want is I want you to be a part of this team and be a happy and effective member. And so all I want you to know is that as you go down this path, and if you get to the point that you realize, you know what, I'm not happy doing this, or I'm effective, not as effective as I just, it doesn't feel right, and you
Yep.
want to do something different, I got your back, and we'll figure it out. What the, I have no idea what that would look like, but I want you to know that if you ever get to that point, that's okay. We'll figure it out. So I want you to be comfortable having that dialogue with yourself of, hey, should I keep doing this? And don't feel like if your decision is, I don't want to keep doing this, don't feel like that's a bad thing.
Hey,
To me,
Josh,
that's a good thing because you've tried and realized something. Yeah.
are you saying to me, this is making me think differently, but I'm
Yeah.
separating human value from role value. You're telling me that I have human value here in your eyes, and
Yeah.
which isn't directly coupled to my role value. So if I'm struggling in my role, I have human value to this company and to what we're trying to do,
Yeah.
and you're going to reframe if we need to. I had never thought about. I
Absolutely.
thought it was like live or die, right?
No.
I mean,
No.
there's a picture of you next to this guy Gonzalo, and I thought you were like a headhunter kind of leader, but now there's a human inside of you. So I appreciate that, and
Yeah.
I'm
It's
going to
like the
think about it.
alien, right? It burst out of my chest.
So I'm done. I'm done, everyone. Right.
Yeah.
So with the role, but Josh, I wanted you to demonstrate that conversation, and I think you did a beautiful job of it. And that's it, and repeat that and repeat that. And it honestly made me feel like you were teasing things apart. That
Yeah.
there was an innate value to the company and then role based value.
Yep.
So I have one more question. Do I
Yeah.
Can I continue in the Metacast?
I mean, yes, the way we set up the conversation is you tell me.
Okay.
You tell me if you
Oh,
think
so
you're crushing it there and you want to keep doing
so
it.
let's
Yeah.
drive this for like 1,000 more episodes, baby. Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
What else did we miss? Anything else? I
Let's
like the
see.
nuance you just brought. I think that's
Yeah.
important nuance. And Metacasters don't take my silly delivery sometimes. Josh did a wonderful job there of role playing. I think a general purpose position that all good leaders should be taking, independent of demotion or whatever, reframing, pips. I love the way he showed up there.
And have that type of conversation potentially even before the promotion,
Yep.
right? Set that again. If you rewind the episode 15, 20 minutes, you're going to hear me talk about having that discussion as early as possible, creating that safety net. And you create the safety net by saying, okay, Bob, promotion. We think this is the right thing for you. You're excited about it. We're going to try it. You know what? Sometimes we swing and miss. And if we swing and miss, we're going to sit down and we'll like and we'll watch the video. Why did we miss? Do we want to try again? Do we want to keep swinging? Do we want to swing harder? Do we want to swing different? Or do we
Yep.
want to stop swinging? And if we decide we want to stop swinging, that's okay. That's a totally valid thing for us to land on because you know what? We're asking you to do a thing you've never done before.
Yep.
And you might get there and say, oh crap, this sucks. I don't really like this. I don't want to do this the rest of my life, let alone like the next couple of months. So
Yep.
at that point, because I value you as a part of the organization and I know that you make us better, we'll find a place where you're excited and fired up because I know when I have an excited Bob, a fired up Bob in a role where he's just ready to rock and roll,
Yep.
just watch out, right? The world's going to change.
What about the pause that refreshes? So a variation on this theme, Josh.
Hmm.
So I'm going to use the demote word. I know you don't.
Yeah.
You demote someone, but then like 6 months goes by and they're like ready again. So all they needed, it wasn't a skill set. They weren't hitting their head on the glass ceiling. They needed a break. Are they
Yeah.
forever? And I know
No.
the answer, but I want to. So sometimes people need a pause, uh, and then just like they can rerun. They're re-energized. Would you stop them? A lot of leaders would. So I think there is this notion of if you were demoted, it's going to be incredibly hard for you. I've seen this in managers. Like you hit a director
Hmm.
level, and if you're demoted in that company, you will never get to a director level again. Right? You
Hmm.
you you failed at that. So can I do the
Yeah.
pause? Any thoughts around that?
Yeah. Here's a real world example that has happened to me in the past like 4 months. So I have a very dear friend that I've worked with a couple of times, and they had worked with me in product owner roles over and over again, and they just destroyed it. One of my favorite product owners to work with. And I was working with them, I was leading product, and I had an opening for a product management role. And again, it was one of those like ladder things of like, okay, this is the next step. And so they were fired up. I was excited for them to take that chance and go and try it. And they got into it. And after I think 2-ish years of doing that, we ended up chatting and they were just like, gosh, I kind of like working with teams more. I think I want to go back to the product owner role because all this other stuff in the product management realm, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I was excited about it. But as I really sat down and understood who I am and what I find joy in, it really is working closely with teams. And I said, fantastic. Like, you have discovered your focus and your passion, the thing that really gets you fired up. Let's make that happen. We ended up parting ways, but we stayed in touch. And I had lunch with them, well, I think this week or last week. And that pause enabled them to get back and like try it again. And so they had landed in a different role with a different company that was more product managery. And they had choices of, hey, where am I going to focus?
Right.
And what happened was they found themselves focusing more on the product management stuff and say, I kind of like this now.
Yep.
It was like that first time they got up, they stepped up to the plate, they swung, they struck out. It's like, I'm not sure I want to get back in there again against someone throwing 90. Maybe I should go back. But after a couple of years, they went back and they had another chance. They stepped up to the plate again. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I think I can do this now,
Yep.
and I'm excited and fired up. So yeah, so absolutely, that's a thing that can and should happen.
What I feel like this is a forkable moment. What do you think?
Yeah.
Metacasters is like stick a
Workable.
fork in it. I'm not swearing or anything. So,
Uh,
Josh, anything you want to
yeah.
squeeze in before we fork it?
Uh, so I feel like I have raged against the word demotion, and what I've raged against is, yes, there's going to be the word demotion within your organization. But my challenge to you as leaders is to reframe how you think about it. Yes, there's the demotion word and the navigation that you have to deal with across your organization and for your people, but that doesn't mean you have to treat it like that.
Correct.
So, recognizing the world that you live in, but also recognizing the sphere of influence that you have and how you can choose to operate a little bit differently. So, that's my challenge to you as you work through and you hear Josh kind of getting frustrated or upset. It's not that, it's just excitement and enthusiasm and encouragement for everyone listening or watching this to have that extra little bit of gumption to go try and be a little bit different. Okay,
Metacasters,
I'll
this
put my
this
forks down.
series has been about it's a leadership responsibility to grow and develop organizations. PIPs were part of that, demotions are part of that, pivoting, shifting. You have to be vigilant and insightful and observing and open-minded and positive about your role. Never write people off. Always be curious about the possibilities. But that's you want to be an excellent leader, then grow organizations. That's one of my core metrics for it is how good are you at growing organizations, at giving congruent feedback, etc. So I think this series is really nailing that. That's our job. That's our job is to be nimble, to not be constrained by HR, to not be constrained by our own biases, but to really go in there and meet people where they are and grow kick-ass organizations. So with that said, from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina,
And beautiful downtown Fuquay Arena, North Carolina.
isn't it wonderful today, Josh? Low humidity, man. I'm Bob
It's weird. It
Galen.
doesn't feel like it's August. Yep. And I'm Josh Anderson.
Shake.
Shake and bake.
Take care, y'all.